Merry Christmas, everyone! I know this video seems a bit odd for a Christmas special, but this channel did cover something not holiday related for Christmas back in 2019, and after what happened earlier this year with My Singing Monsters composer, I'm still mad about that, I decided to do something different this year. Although this video isn't exactly completely out of the blue, as it is a bit of a sequel to the 6,000 subscriber special, which, if you haven't watched already, you absolutely should 100% watch it. It is one of my biggest videos yet. Link is in the video description. Why is it a sequel? Because while the 6,000 subscriber special was about the beginner book video series, this video is about the sister series to the BBV series. Richard Scarry's Best Videos Ever. Like with the beginner book videos, I was very familiar with Richard Scarry's Best Videos Ever growing up. In fact, at one point, I want to say we even had every single original release in the series, but at some point we lost both Richard Scarry's Best Counting Video Ever and Best Sing-Along Mother Goose Video Ever, and after that we were left with the remaining 4 releases. My memories of seeing those 2 tapes, though, are foggy, so maybe I'm misremembering. And no, unlike with the BBV series, Richard Scarry's Best Videos Ever did not scare me. At least, not as much as the BBV series did. The tapes did have an ending promo, which I found a little scary, no pun intended, but not nearly as scary as the BBV promos. Overall, I enjoyed Richard Scarry's Best Videos Ever more growing up, as opposed to the beginner book videos, which I only partially enjoyed growing up and really only learned to appreciate in my later years. To this day, I think Richard Scarry's Best Videos Ever was overall a better series than the beginner book video series. It's not that I dislike the BBV series. My 6,000 subscriber special is more than enough proof of that. I just think Richard Scarry's Best Videos Ever is better, and I'll explain why as we go along. Richard Scarry's Best Videos Ever was a children's series released between 1989 and 2002, and I say it's the sister series to the BBV series for a few reasons. 1. Both series were released in the same year and lasted for about the same amount of time, with the beginner book video series lasting slightly longer, ending in 2003, while Richard Scarry's Best Videos Ever lasted until 2002. 2. They were both released under the same companies. Random House Home Video was the original publisher of the 2 series, and then later Sony Wonder took over. 3. They were both meant to promote and/or were based on popular children's book series. However, though they are sister series, there are also a fair few differences between the series. The most obvious one is the animation. The beginner book video series was animated with image manipulation, where the images from the books would be edited and moved around the screen to fit the dialogue. It serves its purpose well enough, but it can look robotic at times. Richard Scarry's Best Videos Ever, meanwhile, made use of actual, full-on, hand-drawn 2D animation. Granted, it wasn't the best animation, especially not in the earlier releases, but it still gave the stories life in a way that the style of the BBV series could never hope to achieve. The other obvious difference is the music. The beginner book video series made use of synth-based music composed by Nick Hubble, Bruce H. Zimmerman, and Rich DeRosa. Some of the pieces were good and even a little fun at times, but it's overall nothing spectacular. Most of the releases in Richard Scarry's Best Videos Ever, which I'm going to be referring to as the RSBVE series for the sake of simplicity, also had music composed by Zimmerman and DeRosa, but a couple had music composed by Arthur Custer, and there is a very noticeable difference between Custer's music and that of Zimmerman and DeRosa. The latter music, much like the equivalent Zimmerman and DeRosa music in the BBV series, was entirely synth-based, and was good. In fact, I would say that their work on the RSBVE series was better in some ways than that on the BBV series, but again, nothing too spectacular. Custer's music, on the other hand, is unique among these productions in that it makes use of real, non-synth instruments. Specifically, it makes use of a 3-part ensemble of an electric piano, which is different from a synthesizer, a flute, and a clarinet. Sometimes they even add a piccolo and a classical guitar. This may not seem like much, but it makes all the difference. Don't believe me? Take a listen to the RSBVE intro as arranged by Bruce H. Zimmerman.
Richard Scarry's best Busy People video ever.
And here's Rich DeRosa's version, which is also synth.
Richard Scarry's best sing-along Mother Goose video ever.
Now take a listen to the original Arthur Custer version.
Richard Scarry's best ABC video ever.
Sure, Zimmerman's version does have more instrumentation, and DeRosa's version also has a lot of instrumentation while using a different set of synth instruments that sound prettier and more delicate. But Custer's version has more raw depth. The synth instruments, especially in Zimmerman's music, sound so much flatter by comparison. There's something about hearing the real flute and clarinet, the breath, the inflections, the superior expression that these real instruments can afford, that adds so much more to Custer's music. I used to think the music from the later releases composed by Zimmerman and DeRosa was better, but upon re-listening, I can firmly say that the music from the first 2 releases composed by Custer and making use of real instruments is the superior RSBVE music. It legit almost sounds like Mozart or Haydn at times. Granted, there are a few moments where a synthesizer is used, like in this scene from Richard Scarry's best ABC video ever.
Lowly Worm is serenading Violet on his violin.
Look, Lowly! I've made a valentine for you.
But most of Custer's music in this series consists of the electric piano and woodwind ensemble. You know, it's a shame. The earlier RSBVE releases had the superior Custer music, but also the basic, sometimes subpar animation, while the later releases had far better animation, but also the more synthy Zimmerman and DeRosa music. I wish I could say there was a release or two that combined the superior animation with the superior music, but unfortunately there were none that did that. There are also other less obvious differences between the 2 series, such as the RSBVE voice cast, which, while it had some actors and actresses in common with the BBV series, also had some voices that never appeared in the BBV series, like Blaise Bairdoll, PJ Brown, Lacey Chabert, Eliza Harris, and Michael Levesque. And not only were there different voice actors, but the RSBVE series used more voices per production, as we will see later. Production was also different. The Beginner Book video series was produced by Praxis Media and then later Greenlight Media, while Richard Scarry's Best Videos Ever were produced by Random House themselves at first, and then later Jumbo Pictures. Yeah, that Jumbo Pictures, the animation studio that also brought us Doug and PB&J Otter, and which would later give way to Cartoon Pizza. This probably explains why the animation in the later RSBVE releases looked a lot better than in the earlier ones. Now it's time to go into each and every RSBVE release in detail and tell you all the history of this series. However, much like with the BBV series, there's barely anything online about the history of Richard Scarry's Best Videos Ever, so I'll mostly be focusing on analyzing each release because each one has a lot to offer. If anyone has anything to add about this series' history, let me know in the comments. So, let's begin. The first Richard Scarry's Best Videos Ever release was Richard Scarry's Best ABC Video Ever, released on March 15th, 1989. It was voiced by Blaze Baradol, PJ Brown, Ryan Brown, Colin Carmen, Michael Fass, Sarah Freuchen, Paul Glazer, Amy Gross, Allison Hashmall, Ali Jeffers, Vicky Jones, Ron Marshall, Sarah Schoenberg, and Jim Thurman. It was one of only 2 releases that not only had the original Arthur Custer music, but was also not animated by Jumbo Pictures. And man, I really wish they got Jumbo Pictures on board sooner. The animation in this one is mediocre at best, and downright subpar at worst. Though I must say, it still does a good job of capturing the Richard Scarry aesthetic, even if the colors are more flat than in the books. Another aspect of the books that this video does a good job of capturing is the general chaos of Busytown. There's always something going wrong in spectacular fashion.
Grocer Cat is cleaning the sidewalk in front of his grocery store. Watch out, Grocer Cat!
Another thing worth mentioning is that this and all the other releases in the RSBVE series were directed by Tony Eastman, the son of P.D. Eastman himself, who would later do work on other shows like Doug, Beavis and Butthead, and Daria. The plot of this video is that the school children of Busytown are learning all about the alphabet, which you probably guessed from the title. After a general introduction to Busytown, we are introduced to Huckle Cat, who will be a very prominent character for the rest of the series, as he boards the school bus that morning. When the children arrive at school, Lowly Worm presents a flower to Miss Honey, the teacher, and takes his place in her flower vase? Huh? Why isn't he with the rest of the children? Is he supposed to be Miss Honey's assistant or something? I have no idea. Also, Miss Honey has a slight rural twang to her accent, which seems to come and go.
Thank you for the lovely flower, Lowly. Now, is everyone ready for Alphabet Day? Today, we're going to learn the whole alphabet from A to Z.
So either her voice actress is from the country but neutralized her accent mostly but not completely, or the voice actress is trying to do a southern accent but poorly. Anyway, Miss Honey gives Huckle giant cards to give to the rest of the class. Each card has 1 letter of the alphabet on it. Not only is it very convenient that there just happen to be exactly 26 children coming to school that day, unless you count Lowly Worm, but I would have also expected the children to bicker over which letter each kid got. I guess they either decided this all beforehand, or the kids are just that well behaved. After the card handout, the children introduced the alphabet with the alphabet song, as one might expect.
Now I've sung my ABCs. Next time won't you sing with me?
After that, each child goes in depth into the use of each letter on his or her respective card. And of course, through the entire section, there are plenty of antics going on. For one thing, after Ned Alligator introduces the letter N, Miss Honey has him open the window for some fresh air, but then as soon as he opens it, a huge surge of water enters the classroom, caused by Janitor Joe's water hose.
Janitor Joe, stop it! You're flooding the classroom.
Sorry, Miss Honey, I was just watering the flowers.
Well, now you're watering the flowers, the children, and everything else.
And he never points the hose away from the classroom either. He just stupidly lets it keep flooding the school. What an oaf. He should be fired or something. But despite all that, Miss Honey and the school children press on with the day's lesson, despite the children being nearly underwater, because that makes sense. But then, after Ole Owl introduces the letter O, the whole flood just ceases to be relevant. I guess the water pumps they had on hand were that good? Whatever. Throughout the letter introductions, there's an overarching subplot revolving around the goofy, nutty, musaceid-loving fruit ape himself, Bananas Gorilla. Bananas wants to, wait for it, find some bananas, or at least something with banana in it. But he has a lot of trouble. First, he goes to Abel Baker Charlie's bakery hoping to get some banana bread, but alas, Charlie is making blueberry bread that day. Then, Bananas tries to get some banana ice cream from Bob Fox, but of course Bob is fresh out. Later, Bananas spots a huge bunch of bananas on a mail van and steals it along with Sergeant Murphy's police motorcycle. What? Okay, first of all, why is the post office delivering bunches of bananas? I know you can buy fresh fruit and have it shipped through the mail, but why a whole bunch of bananas? It's not even packaged at all. Second, why would the motorcycle be so easy to steal? It is one of Sergeant Murphy's patrol vehicles, so you'd think it would be very hard to steal. Sergeant Murphy didn't even leave it running. It was clearly off when parked next to the mail van. So Sergeant Murphy, in turn, goes after bananas using Huggle's tricycle? Really? He couldn't have ridden in the mail van while Marvin the Mail Mouse drove after him in hot pursuit or something? Oh my god. Anyway, later on, Bananas somehow gets Rosie Rabbit to row him down the river on a raft tied to her boat, while Sergeant Murphy, Huckle, and Lowly Worm chase after Bananas on a motorboat. And Rosie must be a damn good rower because somehow Sergeant Murphy's motorboat is having a lot of trouble catching up. Eventually, Bananas manages to get on a train and Sergeant Murphy and the gang chase after the train with a handcart when Sergeant Murphy could have simply ordered the train to be stopped so he could arrest Bananas. But of course that's not as fun. After Bananas gets off the train, he usurps Willy Wolf's wheelbarrow to ride down a hill as Sergeant Murphy and company continue to chase him, this time on wagon, because of course they would. The chase ends when Bananas finally settles down in a camping tent. Sergeant Murphy has gotten his motorcycle back and somehow attached a sidecar to it, all while still being hot on Bananas' trail. He unzips the tent, confiscates the last banana, and finally arrests Bananas. Realistically, he should have arrested him long ago, but again, whatever. After Sergeant Murphy and Bananas have gone, Huckle discovers that the tag that fell off of the last banana is addressed to Bananas Gorilla. The video implies that because the bananas were his all along, Sergeant Murphy was wrong to arrest Bananas Gorilla, but remember that he stole the police motorcycle, which is a federal offense, so Bananas would likely still be serving a lot of jail time for that alone. After the letter introductions and the Bananas Gorilla subplot are over, class is dismissed and everyone heads home. We follow Huckle back to his house, where he tells his parents about everything that happened at school, as well as singing the alphabet one last time. Obviously, this video was absolutely crazy. But again, that is very true to the nature of the Richard Scarry books. So much stuff in it makes no sense, but is still quite enjoyable, even with the subpar animation. A good start to the series.
Susie, that was sickening.
The second RSBVE release was Richard Scarry's Best Counting Video Ever, which came out on October 16th, 1989. This was the other release that had Custer's music and wasn't animated by Jumbo Pictures. It was voiced by P.J. Brown, Colin Carmen, Michael Fass, Amy Gross, Allison Hashmall, Agnes Herman, Ron Marshall, and Jim Thurman. A smaller voice cast than before, but it works. Notably, this is the release that, in addition to the standard electric piano and woodwind trio, makes use of the piccolo and classical guitar.
Come along and count with me, 'cause it's a counting day.
After another introduction to Busy Town, in which Mr. Frumble loses his hat to the wind and chases after it, we are introduced to the family and household of the character for whom this will be her only spotlight episode of the series, Lily Bunny. Yes, Lily Bunny does make appearances throughout the rest of the series, but this is the only video that's fully about her. Lily is reading a book about numbers and has learned how to count to 10. After she demonstrates her newfound ability, her father suggests that she make the rest of the day a counting day, in which she goes around finding increasing numbers of things to count, 1 of something, 2 of something, 3 of something, etc. Lily takes up her father's suggestion, going around the house and all over Busy Town finding things to count. Her quest takes her to Farmer Fox's farm, where she bumps into Mr. Frumble, who still hasn't caught his hat. She also saves Mr. Mouse from crashing into Farmer Fred's truck with his stunt plane, and acts as an agent of chaos for Farmer Fred's watermelons.
There go my watermelons.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 watermelons.
8. Don't count them! Catch them!
I'm sorry, Farmer Fred. I don't have time. I have to go meet Farmer Fox at the farm stand. Goodbye!
Great job, Lily. She goes to Farmer Fox's farm stand, where who should pull up but Bananas Gorilla, who purchases some banana cream pies. I guess he either got a lighter sentence than expected after the whole banana bunch chase, or he's out on parole. After counting to 10, Lily returns home where her parents are outside having lunch, and she sings about what's happened on her journey so far. Then, her father challenges her to accomplish a feat twice as great as counting to 10. Counting to 20! Lily isn't sure she can handle such a daunting feat all by herself, so she seeks out the assistance of Huckle Cat and Lowly Worm. The trio head to Busy Town to continue their mission. There, Lowly Worm nearly flies away after buying 14 balloons, but is rescued by a giraffe. By the way, why do regular non-humanoid animals exist in this universe? Shouldn't every animal be humanoid? Even the frogs and insects are anthropomorphic, so why not the cows or this giraffe? I guess it's one of those things you just have to accept, much like the non-human animals in Arthur. Anyway, later, Lowly Worm causes havoc in the grocery store when he pops out of an apple, scaring Mom Crocodile, who throws him across the store, accidentally kicking over her cart of apples in the process. Huckle catches Lowly Worm, but then Mr. Frumble enters the store, still chasing his hat, and trips over all the apples on the floor. Later on, Lowly Worm buys some roses for Hilda Hippo, but then Hilda sneezes, causing all the petals on the flowers to go flying. Hilda Hippo is actually in love with Lowly Worm in this series, and this is the first glimpse of that. After counting to 19, Huckle and Lowly Worm decide it's time for them to head home, leaving Lily to try and find 20 by herself. However, Lily feels utterly defeated by Huckle and Lowly Worm's departure, and so she just walks back home, depressed. When she gets home, her father reminds her that there's still time left in the day to find 20, and she shouldn't give up so easily. Lily is still doubtful at first, but then, when the family sits down for supper, she discovers that there is indeed 20 carrots. Something tells me that her parents knew Lily might come home short, so her mother purposefully made 20 carrots for everyone. Triumphant, Lily is tucked into bed that night, and her mother sings her a lullaby about her accomplishments that day. And no, Mr. Frumble still hasn't caught his hat. Poor guy. This video wasn't as crazy or nonsensical as the previous release, but there were still plenty of, Richard Scarryan antics. Plus, there was much more of a consistent, cohesive plot to this story, and it was much more endearing. A nice contrast to the previous video in a lot of ways. Between these releases and the next ones, the first two RSBVE releases were combined into a single release, Richard Scarry's Best Learning Video Ever. I couldn't find much information about this, but it apparently happened between 1989 and 1990. Unfortunately, after Best Counting Video Ever, the RSBVE series wouldn't receive any more new releases for about 4 years. But eventually, new additions to the series did come, in the form of Richard Scarry's Best Busy People Video Ever, and Richard Scarry's Best Learning Songs Video Ever, not to be confused with Best Learning Video Ever. Both released on August 17th, 1993. Let's start with Busy People. Well, I've got good news and bad news. Good news is, Richard Scarry's Best Busy People Video Ever was the first RSBVE release to be animated by Jumbo Pictures, and so there is a huge leap in quality in terms of visuals. The bad news is, this is where the synthy music of Bruce H. Zimmerman comes into play, so the music won't be quite as good. Again, not bad by any means, but still not as good as it could have been. It was voiced by Lacey Chabert, Eliza Harris, Allison Hashmall, Agnes Herman, Alexander C. Iwachu, Bruce Bailey Johnson, Randall Kaplan, Joanna Leeds, Ron Marshall, Tommy J. Michaels, Corinne Orr, Eden Regal, Larry Robinson, Peter Swansborough, Tara Brooke Taburce, Tricia Taburce, Latiaka Vinson, and Candace Walters. And yes, I know the narrator sounds a bit like Paul Christie, who voiced Noggin's Moose Moose.
Oh, hello! It's nearly New Year's Eve, and I'm a bit rusty with the ivories here.
Richard Scarry's Best Busy People Video Ever.
But it's not him. The introduction to this release is different from the previous two in that most of it is in song.
In bakeries or beauty shops, using hammers, using mops, at computers on the phone, they work together or alone.
The previous introductions were spoken instead.
Welcome to Busy Town. It's early in the morning, so everyone is just starting the day. That's Mr. Frummel out for his morning walk. Whoops, there goes his hat.
The song here serves to introduce the theme of the video, professions, what the kids watching can do when they grow up. The plot of the video is that Miss Honey is teaching the children about the aforementioned professions, and it follows each child in the playground imagining what he or she wants to be in adulthood. Also, Miss Honey no longer has that twang in her accent.
As you can see, there are a lot of different jobs that people do. Oh, it's time to go to the playground. While we're there, why don't you think about what you want to be when you grow up?
We witness each child's daydreams. Freddie Fox imagines being a baker.
Next, he pours the filling into the pie crust.
Uh-oh!
I think you put too much yeast in your bread again.
Ralph Pig imagines being a firefighter.
Great! Fires of London! Now who names the fire service? Barnfire, Pandy Lane Farm. All present and correct, sir. Right, let's go.
Huckle Cat imagines being a grocer like his father.
Carrots, lettuce, broccoli. Do you have any fresh corn?
Help yourself.
And so on. And each and every one of the daydreams are interconnected. Freddy bakes pies for Rhonda Raccoon to deliver to Huckle's grocery store, where Gary Goat also delivers his corn, and all the while Ralph and the other firefighters rescue Freddy from the roof of his bakery. How the hell did he even get up there? And put out Able Baker Charlie's burning cookie.
I think my cookie is ruined.
Perfect comedic timing there. Then Lily Bunny directs the construction of a house but trips over some paint cans and injures herself on an upper floor.
Ouch! My knee! Watch where you put your paint, please, Peter.
More like you should watch where you're going. The paint cans were right there. Meanwhile, you were running about not watching where you're going. What are you even doing running around? It's a construction site! Ugh. This lands her in Larry Lyon's office. Sally Cat wants to be a travel agent and she... Hey, wait a minute. Why on earth would a kid want to be a travel agent? That seems like one of the most uninteresting jobs a kid could ever aspire for. I guess she's keeping her expectations realistic? No clue. Anyway, she helps the raccoon family arrange a trip to Raccoon World Play Park, and then the raccoons take a flight that Hilda the Hippo is piloting.
Hello.
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 Where's the bathroom?
Bruno Bear imagines being a ship captain, but then rain enters his daydream, which is the result of it raining in the real world. So Miss Honey gets all the children back inside, where she and the children sing a song about being anything you want to be. No, not that you can be anything you want to be song.
I know just what I want to be when I grow up.
Tell us.
I want to be a teacher, just like you.
Oh.
Aww. Much like with the first release, there isn't much of a plot to Busy People, apart from the connections between daydreams. It also wasn't quite as crazy, wacky, or zany as the previous two releases, but that isn't necessarily a bad thing. Not all of Richard Scarry's books were entirely wacky. In fact, this one serves as a nice contrast to the previous ones. Not quite the same, especially with the music, but still quite good. The other RSBVE release from 1993, Richard Scarry's Best Learning Songs video ever, was voiced by everyone from Busy People excluding Randall Kaplan and Joanna Reeds. This time around, the introduction to Busytown is very brief, as the audience is likely already familiar with the setting by now. The plot of this video is that Hucklecat and his friends are hosting an educational play in Huckle's backyard. Huckle is seen giving away tickets at the front, and the tickets even appear to be designated for certain seats, which is pretty cool.
Excuse me. Let's see. I think these are our seats.
Huckle and his friends must have done a lot more work for this play than one might think. And by the way, I'd like to mention that money, at least so far, has never once played a role in any of these releases. Everything seems to be exchanged for free, or at the very least, all business is done off-screen. I know it's a kids series and children aren't really expected to have a firm grasp of how money works, but they could have at least shown it once, especially in Busy People. In that video, which is all about jobs and careers, it would have been very important to explain the role of money in these lines of work. Otherwise, the kids might be led to believe they're working for nothing. Anyway, the play consists of each member of the cast singing about an educational subject. Ole Owl sings about shapes and basic geometry, Hilda Hippo sings about the alphabet, Alex and Ann Bear sing about opposites, Lily Bunny sings about prepositions, and so on. And all throughout, there are antics revolving around Banana's gorilla once again craving bananas, to the point where he bothers others in the audience and even sabotages the show at points. Dang it, Bananas! I really thought you'd turned your life around after best counting video ever. Yeah, he did take that one banana cream pie in the last video, but that was really it. But no, Bananas seems to have reverted back to his troublesome nature here. This all culminates at the end of the play, where the kids reprimand Bananas for messing up their show, and then sing a song about manners for him. And by the end, Bananas seems once again redeemed. Let's hope he stays that way. Huckle certainly seems to doubt he will, though. Then everyone sings a farewell song and the play is over. There isn't as much to say about learning songs. There is, again, not much of a plot, and even less noteworthy stuff happens in it apart from Banana's gorilla's antics. In fact, I would say this is the most boring one yet. It's not bad, per se, but it's not even as exciting as Busy People. Actually, I've been noticing a bit of a pattern here. Each subsequent release has been progressively less wacky. ABC was the craziest of all, then Counting Video was slightly toned down, Busy People even more so, and now Learning Songs is the least wacky one of all. Now we're starting to get to the point where the lack of craziness is starting to go against the books. Sure, not all the books were as crazy as ABC, but they were more exciting than Learning Songs. I think this might be the most mundane Richard Scarry related production yet. Now we've got 2 releases left to discuss. Let's see if they change the trajectory. The final 2 releases in Richard Scarry's Best Videos Ever were Richard Scarry's Best Silly Stories and Songs Video Ever and Richard Scarry's Best Sing-Along Mother Goose Video Ever, which both came out on August 13th, 1994, nearly a year after the previous 2 releases. These are kind of the black sheep of the RSBVE series, as not as many people have watched them. They were released at the end of the original RSBVE series run, and were not even featured on the RSBVE trailer. However, they just might be the most interesting ones. Richard Scarry's Best Silly Stories and Songs Video Ever was voiced by Agnes Hermann, Bruce Bailey Johnson, Michael Levesque, Ron Marshall, Tish Rabe, yes, that Tish Rabe, known for carrying on Dr. Seuss's legacy and who was also involved with the production team for the RSBVE series as well as the Beginner Book Video series, Larry Robinson, the Kazoo Kid himself, Brett Ambler, who was also involved in the later Beginner Book videos, Lacey Chabert, Sivan Kotel, Tommy J. Michaels, and Eden Regal. This was actually the RSBVE release that I watched and enjoyed the most as a kid, so my overview of it may be slightly biased. The video opens with Hucklecat and Lowly Worm paying a visit to the Busytown Library, which features my favorite song in the whole series.
At the library, you can find any book from A to Z. At the library, there are books for you and me. Books about airplanes flying high, stars that shine up in the sky, dinosaurs and singing whales, great big books of fairy tales.
Not my favorite piece of RSBVE music, period. That honor would go to the music of Arthur Custer. However, it is definitely the best song or piece of music with lyrics in the series. It was actually not written by Bruce H. Zimmerman like the rest of the music in this release, but rather Jeff Loeb. In fact, this would be the only song Loeb provided for the RSBVE series at all. Perhaps that's why I like it. It does seem to have a different feel from the rest of the music in the Zimmerman-composed videos. Anyway, after the song ends, Huckle and Lowly Worm go to the bookkeeper, Mr. Read-A-Lot, for a suggestion for a funny book for Lowly Worm to laugh at. By the way, Mr. Read-A-Lot totally seems like a cross between Blathers from Animal Crossing and Professor Layton. At least he does to me.
Hi, Mr. Read-A-Lot.
Hello, Huckle. Hello, Lowly. What book would you like today?
My intuition should serve me well. A
satisfying puzzle indeed.
Mr. Read-A-Lot suggests the Silly Storybook, which Huckle promptly checks out of the library. Huckle and Lowly Worm then go to the park to read it. They read 3 stories from the book: Absent-Minded Mr. Rabbit, Mr. Fix-It Fixes It, try saying that 3 times fast, and Pa Pig's New Car. The first story is about Mr. Rabbit, who always has his nose buried in his newspaper and is completely oblivious to his surroundings. He is nearly run over by a car, walks through a construction site, nearly falls into a manhole, misses out on a brass band playing in the park, has no idea about the butterfly that lands on his newspaper, and nearly falls into a river. He manages to get through all that, but then his habit finally comes back to bite him as he walks straight into a newly laid patch of tarmac on the street and gets stuck in it. Tarmac is not that elastic.
Hey! New street? Yep. Nice job. Yep. There's only one problem. I seem to be stuck in it. Could you please unstick me? Yep.
After much trial and error, the workers responsible for the new road get Mr. Rabbit unstuck, who vows to always pay more attention to his surroundings from then on.
I can absolutely guarantee you of that.
I guess it's gonna take a while for him to fully break his habit. In the second story, a mechanic named Mr. Fix-It is a bit overconfident about his abilities, which leads to much chaos for his customers. This comes to a head when he tries to fix Freddy Fox's tricycle horn, Firefighter Ralph's siren, Grandma Bear's cuckoo clock, and Lily Bunny's plush doll, all by 3 o'clock that afternoon. However, somehow all of the sounds get mixed up, and none of the items sound as they should.
And when Lily tried to put her dolly to bed, she got a big surprise.
So, after a musical number, everyone comes back to demand that Mr. Fix-It actually fixes it. In the last story, Pa Pig and his 2 children go to a car dealership to replace their barely functioning jalopy.
He certainly needed one, don't you think?
Just barely. After picking up the new car, Pa Pig and the kids go to the drugstore to pick up some toothpaste. However, Pa accidentally leaves his glasses in the drugstore, and after leaving, he drives the wrong car away. And I mean the very wrong car. He unknowingly steals Sergeant Murphy's police cruiser. First the motorcycle, now the police car. Sergeant Murphy just can't catch a break. But do the kids bother to stop him? Nope! Just as Lily Bunny did a few videos ago, they decide to act as agents of chaos.
Pa, are you sure this is the car you wanted?
Of course it is. This is a much nicer car than our old one. I bet Ma will love it.
Little demons, now your father's probably going to be arrested. Great job. Also, what the hell is up with Sergeant Murphy's voice?
Stop! Help! My car! Police!
He didn't sound that way before.
I told you I'd catch you, you rascal! Now give me the rest of those bananas!
Stop! Help! My car! Police! Oh, wait a minute! I am the police!
I guess the writers must have been fans of Classic Electric Company.
Hey! Help! Help! Please! Please! Help! That's me.
Anyway, Pa Pig then drives to a fruit stand for some bananas, and of course Bananas Gorilla is here. But apparently, Pa's vision is so bad without his glasses, that he somehow mistakes Bananas Gorilla's Banana Mobile for the new car.
I hope Ma likes our new car.
Well, yellow is her favorite color.
Like, how? How does the Banana Mobile even vaguely resemble the car Pa bought? The new car wasn't even yellow! Also, how did Bananas even get a Banana Mobile? Did he have it custom made, or did he make it himself? Either way, it seems the tables have turned on him, as instead of him stealing a vehicle, now his vehicle is being stolen away from him. Accidentally, of course, but it's still funny how things have worked out for Bananas. Anyway, Pa decides to stop one last time on the way home to watch the firefighters absolutely drown an ice cream stand. And then he drives the truck away? Okay, at least the first two vehicles were cars. It should have been blatantly obvious to Pa Pig, even with his impaired vision, that this was definitely not their car. Like, dude, if your vision is this bad, you shouldn't even be driving at all without glasses. I'm surprised you haven't caused any crashes yet. In fact, glasses aren't enough for your case. You should get some contacts or some freaking LASIK or something. Anyway, it is at this point that Pa Pig finally realizes that maybe, just maybe, something's not right. And no, the kids have still not helped at all.
Oh dear, I'm afraid that something is not quite right, children.
What is it, Pa?
My glasses. I must have left them in the drugstore. We'll have to go back.
The little trolls. Pa realizes that his glasses are missing, and still driving the fire truck, he goes back to the drugstore to get them. And instead of being immediately arrested for 3 subsequent accounts of car theft, he is somehow allowed to head home scot-free. Sergeant Murphy even comes to the Pig household and just drops off the toothpaste without saying anything. I don't even know what's going on anymore. And then, at the end of the video, Pa Pig and his kids are seen driving off in an excavator. Because of course. And he still doesn't get arrested. Great. I can say with absolute certainty that Richard Scarry's Best Silly Stories and Songs video ever was indeed a return to form for this series. In fact, I'd say it was almost as crazy as ABC. It certainly lives up to its name, and now you can all see why this was my favorite growing up. However, the last RSBVE release is one I barely even remember at all. Richard Scarry's Best Sing-Along Mother Goose video ever, which has to be the clunkiest of all the titles used in this series, was voiced by Mitchell Sepler, Clay Hale, Agnes Herman, Bruce Bailey Johnson, Michael Levesque, Ron Marshall, Tish Rabe, Larry Robinson, Lacey Chabert, Wendy Hashmel, Alexander C. Iwachu, Tommy J. Michaels, Eden Regal, and Lateaka Vinson. It was also the only RSBVE release to feature music composed by Rich DeRosa, and though it is still synth and lacks the depth of Custer's music, it uses a different set of instrument sounds that sound better than those Zimmerman used. Because I only very faintly remember seeing this release maybe once or twice when I was 3 or 4, I don't remember most of what happens in this video. So when I watched it for the Christmas special, it was pretty much a new experience for me. This video is different from all the others, not only because of its music, but also because it's the only one that takes place at night, so we get to see Busytown in literally a different light. It starts with Hucklecat's mother singing him a nursery rhyme, specifically Little Jack Horner, from a book. By the way, did anyone else think it was actually Little Jack Corner growing up? Only recently did I learn it was actually Horner. How strange. Anyway, Huckle's mother tucks him in, but Huckle is too worried to go to sleep. It's revealed that Lowly Worm has gone missing, and the cat family has been searching and searching for him to no avail. So Mrs. Cat comforts Huckle by singing him Starlight, Star Bright. Then Huckle wishes on the star himself, wishing to find lowly worm before drifting off to sleep and entering dreamland. No, not that dreamland. He ends up in a rural medieval-style English countryside setting where he encounters some local children playing London Bridges Falling Down. After playing with them, Huckle finds out that he has, in fact, entered Mother Goose Land. He then asks the other children if they have seen lowly worm anywhere, but he has a bit of trouble describing him to them.
Well, he kind of looks like lowly worm.
Really, Huckle? You couldn't say something along the lines of, he's a long, skinny worm with a green cap? You've known him for the entire series now. How is it hard for you to describe him? Unsurprisingly, this yields no help from the other children. So Huckle keeps looking until he eventually stumbles upon Mary and her little lamb. When Mary and her lamb go to school, Huckle asks if Mary or those at her school have seen lowly worm. Mary's teacher says she has not seen him, but then directs him to Old Mother Hubbard down the road. Right when Hubbard gets back from the cobbler's, Huckle knocks on the door, asking if either she or the dog, Jones, have seen lowly worm. Old Mother Hubbard asks what he looks like, but Huckle again fails to describe him. Huckle keeps searching and searching and bumps into Little Bo Peep, who is, of course, trying to find her sheep. Huckle and Bo Peep decide to team up and both find lowly worm and the sheep. After searching in a bush beside a stream, Huckle and Bo Peep decide to split up to better find lowly worm and the sheep. Huckle stumbles upon the setting of Hey Diddle Diddle, and the dish and the spoon trip over Huckle's foot as they run. Unable to ask them if they've seen lowly worm before they run off again, Huckle starts to become depressed, wondering if he'll ever find lowly worm. Then, a spider scares Little Miss Muffet away, but Huckle has the idea to, instead of running away with her, ask the spider if it has seen lowly worm. Unfortunately, the spider has not seen him either. Huckle's journey then takes him to the three little kittens, who explain to Huckle that they have lost their mittens. Huckle points out the mittens, which were literally straight to the kittens' right, and the kittens tell their mother the news. Their mother thanks Huckle and offers him some pie, but Huckle declines, asking her if she's seen lowly worm. Of course she has not, but she directs him to Little Boy Blue. Meanwhile, Little Bo Peep has still not found her sheep. She and Huckle bump into each other again, and they decide to both ask Little Boy Blue about lowly worm and the sheep. Little Boy Blue is asleep under his haystack, but then Little Bo's sheep finally return and are reunited with her. This makes Huckle more depressed. Eventually, Huckle finds his way to the little old woman who lives in a shoe, who is giving her many children their broth. He has the idea to fall in line with the children, and the old woman nearly gives him a bowl of broth before he reveals that he is not one of her kids. He then asks her about lowly worm, and this time he is finally able to describe him in some capacity.
Lowly? Is he one of my children? No, I don't think so. He's a worm.
Why couldn't you have said that to the children from the beginning, or Old Mother Hubbard? What was stopping you before? Despite this, the old woman has not seen him, and tells him he should talk to Wee Willie Winkie. So Huckle goes to the town square and asks him about lowly worm, but Wee Willie Winkie refuses to help him because his job isn't finished yet.
Come to think of it, why aren't you in bed?
I was in bed, but now I'm looking for my friend Lowly. He's lost.
That's too bad. I'd like to help you look for him, but I haven't finished my job here. Sorry. Goodbye.
That's right, he just flat out refuses to help. He doesn't even say that he hasn't seen lowly worm. He just gives Huckle a big ol' F you. What a jerk. Huckle begins to slip further into his depression, but then he has one last idea: to ask the people in the nearby castle. There, old King Cole has gathered some of the characters from before to partake in a dance, and he invites Huckle to join in. After the dance, Huckle asks King Cole about lowly worm in what is, without a doubt, the funniest exchange in the whole series.
but I need to find my friend Lowly Worm. Have you seen him?
Is that the fellow who's very long and thin?
Yes!
And wears a green hat?
Yes!
And one shoe?
Yes, that's Lowly!
Haven't seen him.
That was just perfect. Huckle tries to exit the castle, but accidentally walks into the kitchen where a royal chef has prepared a giant pie for a feast. Huckle helps the chef take the pie out of the kitchen, and then, finally, it's revealed that Lowly Worm has been in the kitchen this whole time. Huckle was literally feet away from him. Lowly Worm jumps down from his window and begins, messing around with some dough, I guess, as the pie is brought out to the king. After the pie is cut and 24 blackbirds fly out of it, King Cole suggests to Huckle that he ask Mother Goose herself about Lowly Worm. He helps Huckle summon her, and Huckle flies away on her. Mother Goose and Huckle search and search before Mother Goose finally spots Lowly Worm, but before he is finally revealed to Huckle, Huckle wakes up from his dream. His parents tell him that Lowly Worm has actually been in the house this whole time, making a pie for Huckle. How the heck did he manage to do so without being found by Huckle or his parents? Do the cats have a secret kitchen in the basement or something? No idea. But nonetheless, everyone is now back together, and so Huckle's mother sings one last lullaby to put everyone to sleep for the night.
Thy father guards the sheep. Thy mother shakes the dreamland tree, and from it fall sweet dreams for thee. Sleep, baby, sleep. Sleep, baby, sleep.
The end.
The way the ending was done, I'm not gonna lie, actually tugged at my heartstrings a little. I mean, this is a direct-to-video kids series, but it still managed to be so emotionally touching at the end there. What a heartfelt end to this series. Sure, Sing Along Mother Goose isn't wacky or crazy like many of the others, but it had more substance than the similarly unwacky Learning Songs video. It definitely had more of a plot than most of them, and it was also more wholesome than the others. If only it had that signature Arthur Custer music, then it would be absolutely perfect. Unfortunately, as I said, this was the last new release in Richard Scarry's Best Videos Ever. However, this isn't the end of the story, for in 1994 and 1999, the RSBVE series was given the Children's Book of the Month Club treatment. The first Children's Book of the Month Club release was in 1994, and it was a rehash of Richard Scarry's Best Busy People and Best Silly Stories and Songs video ever. I couldn't find any footage of this release, but judging by the Beginner Book video re-release from the same company, I'm willing to bet it's literally just those two RSBVE releases with nothing added to it. The 1999 release, on the other hand, does appear to be a bit different. In 1999, Children's Book of the Month Club released a tape containing Richard Scarry's Best ABC, Best Counting, and Best Learning Songs video ever, as well as a couple bonus cartoons by Paul Fierlinger. This release was called, wait for it, Richard Scarry's Best Learning Video Ever. Yeah, I know. It's extremely confusing, not only because it contains Richard Scarry's Best Learning Songs video ever, but also because there was already another compilation video cassette released by another company also given that exact title as mentioned earlier. My guess is that Children's Book of the Month Club had no idea of this other release. Anyway, the 1999 release does at least offer a little more than the other Children's Book of the Month Club releases I've discussed before, as there are a couple of bonus cartoons on it. I couldn't find footage of this one either, but I'd like to see how it was handled sometime. The last thing to happen with Richard Scarry's Best Videos Ever is that all 6 releases were re-released on DVD in the early 2000s, around the same time that much of the BBV series was also being re-released on DVD. Richard Scarry's Best ABC, Best Counting, and Best Learning Songs Video Ever were re-released on October 16, 2001, and the other 3 releases were re-released on August 13, 2002. And that was the end of Richard Scarry's Best Videos Ever. Unfortunately, despite Richard Scarry's Best Videos Ever being arguably superior to the Beginner Book video series in many respects, it was not as successful as its sister series in the end. The RSBVE series birthed 6 releases, 12 if you count the DVD releases, and then 16 if you count all the compilation releases. Meanwhile, the BBV series had 11 releases, 13 if you count the Spanish releases, 14 if you count the Children's Book of the Month Club release, and 19 if you count the DVD releases. Why was it more successful? Well, it's probably because they were able to make more of the Beginner Book videos faster. They required much simpler animation. They were also adaptations of the beginner books literally straight from the pages, and so they didn't require any real writing. Meanwhile, the RSBVE series required actual hand-drawn animation, and though they were based on Richard Scarry's books, they weren't ripped straight from the books like the BBV series. Each video had a unique plot and premise. The way I see it, though, this illustrates the key difference between the two sister series. The Beginner Book video series prioritized quantity over quality, whereas Richard Scarry's Best Videos Ever prioritized quality over quantity. Unfortunately, when it comes to business, the former sort usually wins out, but that just makes the latter sort that much more special. That's why I, overall, prefer RSBVE to BBV. Also, RSBVE didn't give me childhood trauma. That helps. Let me know in the comments, did you grow up with Richard Scarry's Best Videos Ever? Do you think they should have found ways to make more of them? Do you agree that they were better than the Beginner Book videos? Anyway, thanks for watching, and Merry Christmas everyone, and a Happy New Year! And it is definitely going to be a Happy New Year, as I'll be working on another special video after the holidays. And if you've been around since this channel's founding, you'll have a pretty good idea as to what it might be about. Otherwise, you'll just have to wait and see. Until then, stay tuned.
Thank you.